Okay, so just quick, everyone able to hear? Okay, fine. So hello everyone. So just wanted to check everyone able to hear, because I just wanted to make sure that everyone is able to hear. I'm audible. Okay, fine. So I think everyone is able to hear. I was just checking out whether everything is fine or not. Just let me quickly go through. So I'm also sharing the screen here. Okay, fine. So I think everyone is. Okay, fine. So let's go ahead. We already have enough people. We can go ahead and start. Anyway, the session will be recorded. So probably the same session will go live, will go on my YouTube channel as well. So let's start here. So as we already know that we will be discussing about the options with the network engineer. Like most of you might be already working as a network engineer, basically, or maybe some of the people who might be planning to start with the network engineering. So whatever the case, I'm going to share some of the options and my experiences, as well as the different types of queries you generally face with the multiple people around. And specifically, we will be getting in with some kind of freshers. Let's say we have some few people who want to start, or who have already started working as a network engineer. What is the career plan and how exactly the things goes? So I'll be doing this session in two parts. Probably the first session I'll do it today, where we will be we'll be seeing these points like how to become a network engineer, or what are the different steps you need to follow specifically for that. That's the first thing. And I'll be keeping the second part probably the next week, where we'll be going through with question and answers. So we got some question and answers in the chat box anyway, but it will be difficult for me to follow up. So what I'll do is I'll add some description. In the description, I'll add some one kind of Google form where you can post your questions if you want to just keep your questions confident. Or the second option, you can even type down in the comments box, probably where you can post your questions. So I'll try to collect all the questions, summarize them, because there may be same questions repeated multiple times, which is something I don't want to do that way. So that's the first thing we'll start with. Okay, so let's start here. So first thing, we need to understand network engineer, exactly what is network engineer here. Now, network engineer is a domain expertise where you will be doing a specific kind of job which relates to network. And what is network? Again, we know network is a simple connectivity of your devices. Again, the network is a backbone of any organization. If you take any organization, whether it is a small hospital to, it can be a bank, or it can be any big MNC or a multinational company, or any kind of company having a big campus networks, for everything, the network is a backbone. So that's something we know, where you connect all your computers, network, internet, even the internet, what you access even the internet, what we are using right now to do the live streaming, basically that involves network, that involves YouTube, that involves the Zoom. So there at the back end, there is a network which is making all these things to happen. So basically, in a simple words, we say that, okay, if you want to access your data from anywhere on the internet, from anywhere in your company, you need a network. And to make that possible, there are network engineers or the network administrators or the system administrators. There are different types of roles or the different types of engineers where exactly involved to make these things happen. So their job is to make sure that the devices, the printers, the servers, the computers, everything, they work, even the wireless, the backbone internet, what we use. So they need to make sure that the services works as per the requirement. And the job of the network engineer also to minimize the downtime, because if sudden there is an issue in the network, your job is to make sure that it works as to make sure that it works as fast, to make it up as soon as possible. So we need to make sure that you ensure that you provide access to resources, like maybe there is a sales team who wants to access some database, the database which relating to sales they can access. But whereas the same sales team, if they try to access any financial information or any HR details, I don't want them to access. So you also provide an access. At the same time, you restrict the access to specific users. You upgrade the network and you connect to the different ISPs to ensure that everything works fine. And also you need to make sure that you stay up to date with the latest technologies to provide a maximum protection for your network, design your network as per the current requirements or the future requirements. These are all the things what a network engineer will do. And they do all these things in a different levels normally. So basically what they do is they do in different levels. And if you go through with, normally if you see the different jobs, basically there will be plenty of jobs or the plenty of job roles you will see with these things. Like you will see the people say there is a desktop administrator, and also the people say there is a system admin, network admin. These are the different types of roles you will see. Windows server admin, network engineer. These all the things what the different roles basically tells. Now, I don't want to get into these roles, but most of the roles, if you correlate them, like the desktop engineer is more about providing support at the end user side, like Windows server, Windows support, like operating system support, basic network support, those kind of things. If you go with a system admin, similar, but again, a little bit advanced, where you also try to authenticate the users based on Windows Active Directory or Linux Active Directory kind of things. And you provide some services like DNS, DHCP, those kind of services. Even the same thing relates here. Again, the network engineer, network administrator. So I don't want to get into these individual roles, but maybe if you have a question, but when you see the job profile or when you just use any specific URL to quickly see, they list all the different job types. Basically, you see these kind of roles. When you even search for a network engineer job or anything, you generally see this. So when you click on them, you see the description. But again, the description will vary based on the different organizations. So I cannot specifically say what is the role of a desktop engineer. I can say clearly it says the desktop support, where you provide the end user support. But this will vary based on the companies. Some companies say, okay, desktop support, but you also do some network support. You also do some kind of basic wiring kind of thing. You may also do some kind of software support. Everything includes in that. Now, one common thing you will see in all the levels, in every organization, on every level, even if you take any software support engineers as well, there will be levels. Levels or tiers, tier 1, tier 2, like that. Now, basically, level 1, level 2, level 3, what these roles? Now, the level 1 is more about a kind of fresher role, we can say. So in the level 1, you have a limited access to the network, like maybe you are just a fresher who joined the organization. and then you just have a very limited access to the network. You don't have access to each and every device in the network. You do some basic troubleshooting. Maybe you have some knowledge of the foundations, like the basic network like CCNA, or some server knowledge, some virtualization knowledge, and you also may have some of the basic certification. So more kind of 0 to 1 experience role where you start up with. And as you move on, you go to the next level called level 2 engineer. Now, this is where you will be adding some 2+ years of experience, where you do some advanced configurations, as well as you also do implementation, you also do some troubleshooting. And mostly the level 1 engineers, they do some basic testing. And if they find any issue, let's say if they find any network issue which they are unable to resolve, or which they don't have access, they will be escalating that to the next level called level 2. So typically, an engineer or the administrator who is more experienced, probably we can say like more experienced, or having 2+ years of experience, 2 to 5. And again, the level 3 engineers, basically they are like 5+ years of experience, we can say, where they are majorly responsible for designing the networks. At the same time, they do some advanced troubleshooting, designing part, and also managing higher end networks. So most of the implementation is done by the level 2 engineers, because the level 3 engineers basically they design and they will escalate to the level 2, and the level 2 engineers will be doing the basic setup, the configurations, or the basic troubleshooting, everything. And if there is anything where they need the support, then probably they will escalate to the level 3, where they'll go ahead and ask the level 3 engineers to go through with the complete design and the things. So these are the different roles. So the roles will vary based on the companies. As I already said, the levels will be common based on the experience. And depending upon the role, there will be a slight variation. And as well as depending upon the company, these roles will also vary. So better you read the job description before you apply, or when you're preparing for the interviews, read the job description, what skill set they are specifically looking for. And you need to make sure that you are good with those skills, at least 60 to 70% of the skills, because they will list more than 10 to 15 skills, 10 to 15 points. You don't need to be expert in all. So basically, even if you are good at more than 50%, then you are more capable to apply for that specific jobs. So this is a rough overview of the roles. That's something what I want you to know. Basically, first, in order to become a network engineer, we need to know exactly what are the different roles involved in that. So in simple, whatever the internet we access today, or whatever the resources you access on the company network or any company network, we can say the network is like a backbone of all. Now, to make that running, you need network engineers or network administrator, desktop engineer, is all the different roles. So let's quickly move on from here. Let's try to get into the actual part. So the actual part is like the foundation. So now we decided, let's say I'll start with a fresher. Let's assuming that you want to start your career as a network engineer, or you already started preparing for it. Then what will be the road plan for that? So the first thing, you need to be good with the foundations. This is very important. Basically, foundations is something very important. Now, the basic foundations means, because basically when you go for interviews, they definitely test the foundation skills. Even if you are a CCI certified, then you will be tested with some questions on the OSI model, what are the different layers exactly there, and how they operate, or the different TCP/IP protocols, exactly how they work, the application protocols, those kind of things. So don't expect that you might be a CCI security or CCI expert, or maybe any of the expert, but you still tested the foundations to make sure that you have a strong foundations. Okay, so even I know many students who generally tell me that, okay, we went for this so-and-so role, but these are the basic questions we could not answer specific to OSM model. It doesn't mean that they don't know, but they didn't actually prepare for that because they was expecting the higher level. So foundations plays a big role in your career, because normally people want to become a CCIE, people want to become a cyber security expert, people want to become, the cloud architect. Even many people, many queries I normally get that they want to become a CCIE. Everything, the foundations has to be very strong. Now, in order to get the foundations, you should know these concepts, what I listed over there. Now, this is something everyone know. What is firewall? What is OSM model? What is security? These kind of things. The IP addressing structure, the classes, the subnetting concepts. These are more or less the foundations again. Now, most of these foundations you will be covered in any of these courses. Now, basically, when you learn either a CCNA course or whether you are learning a Microsoft course, before they get into the actual core topics, they will build these foundations. Now, normally what I generally see, what we also do, even if you are going for this MCSE or even for CCNA, we generally build some network foundation course. Apart from that, you can also use something called CompTIA exams, Network Plus exams. We do have those kind of exams as well. But again, very less people prefer to do those. But still in European countries, you still have a good value for the CompTIA and the Network Security and Network Plus examinations, where there will be a lot more detailed foundation topics will be covered, which will lay some good foundations. But again, in specific to an India market and specific to mostly you directly want to get into specializations. That's where we do. That's the reason you still cover foundations here, but again, recommended to cover some good foundation knowledge. And wherever you want to go from here, now, basically, I recommend if you are a fresher, wherever you want to go, I'm not just talking about whether you want to do a CCIE or whether you want to get into any other domain like cybersecurity or cloud or data center, virtualization, whatever the domain you generally select. So these skill set are something prerequisites. Any two skills is something recommended. If you can add any more than two, that's something always good. Now, specifically understanding networks, this is important, CCNA. Now, earlier, if you go back 15, 20 years when we started learning, basically at that point of time, Microsoft is to be the foundations where you learn the basics of Microsoft and other things. But again, CCNA, which will make you to learn more about the routers, switches, LAN, WAN, implementing routing, ACLs. There is plenty of concepts, including automation nowadays, network programmability automation, these kind of foundations, security foundations, everything comes here. Because if you don't understand the behavior of the network, how they behave, then you cannot become an expert in security. You cannot become an architect in a cloud, or you cannot become a data center specialist. How you will, because they all require LAN or WAN. So let's say if you are implementing some security, then you need to understand, let's say you want to do, many graduates come to me and ask, I want to become a cybersecurity expert. How should I become? I said, learn CCNA. I said, learn Red Hat, because you need some tools to run in the Red Hat Linux kind of thing. You need to understand the network, so do some CCNA. You also need to understand some virtualization. I say, do VMware. And then I say, you also need to have some knowledge on servers, like because you host the web services on the server, you host DNS services, you host FTP services, everything on the server, whether on a Red Hat, on a Linux platform or on the server platform. But again, their goal is this, but without foundations, how you do it? Because the security runs on the top of the network. Security runs on the top of your servers. Security runs on the top of your virtualization, right? Without servers, without, I can say without router switches, without LAN and WAN, without internet, without virtualization, without servers, without networking devices, how we are going to implement. So the same thing applicable for any domain. because most of the people nowadays, when you talk about the market, they say cybersecurity, cloud, data center, these kind of things are going to replace the CCIE. Even people ask me, okay, you are a triple CCIE now, so what is the scope of the CCIE? I say still it's the same. There's no much difference what it was there in the 15-20 years before and now. It just the mindset. If you're not good at CCIE, then you cannot survive in the CCIE market. Similar way, if you're not good at the cloud, then you cannot survive in the cloud market. If you're not good at cyber security, you cannot survive. So at the end, expertise is something matters, not just the learning process. Because many people learn CCNA and then they do CCNA, they don't expertise, they just attend the classes and they just listen to the videos, and then or they just do some basic labs, what is in the workbook given, maybe from us or maybe from anyone, and they expect they know CCNA. But when you ask a specific scenario and you ask them to write an ACL as per this requirement, they don't know the exact order to write that ACL. Trust me, even they don't know the exact syntax how to write the one-line statement. So it's not just, when you go to the companies, they don't ask you whether you know what is ACL or not, or what is, let me go with a basic question, like what is router? No one will ask you what is router. No one will ask you what is switch. No one will ask you what is firewall. Everyone knows that. That's a definition you by heart, you learn. That's something everyone knows. So they frame one scenario. They say there is a router here, there is a switch here, and then there are some servers here. They frame. I have my writing pad. It's not software is not installed, so I could not use it. Sorry for that. But probably in the next, I'll fix that. So the problem is they will frame one scenario, and then they will ask that this is what is my requirement, and this is what happening, and this is what the user is facing the problem. Now let me tell you what you will do in this case. Now that's something they will ask you. Okay, so they don't ask you the basic questions. So if you don't implement those kind of scenarios, if you don't understand, or if you don't come across those kind of scenarios, then how you are going to answer? So trust me, these are the foundations. Whatever you want to become, whether you want to become a CCIE, whether you want to become a cybersecurity expert, whether you want to become an architect, whether you want to become anything except the other domains, I'm not including. So database administration, those kind of things. Still, if you want to become a database administrator, still you need to know the server knowledge, some basic knowledge of networks, and some knowledge of virtualization. Now, these kind of things are important, basically. So you don't need to be an expert in all. I'm not saying that you should be an expert in Microsoft. You don't need to be an expert in CCNA. You don't need to be an expert in VMware. That varies depending upon which domain you want to go later on. Like if you want to get into CCIE, then this is where you need to plan. You need to plan with CCNA and then CCNP. Again, in CCNP, you have 7 to 8 specializations, whether you want to become a CCI security, or whether you want to become an enterprise engineer, or whether you want to become a service provider network, whether you want to work in a data center, then virtualization comes into picture, whether you want to, where exactly you want to go. Now, similar way, if you are looking for any specific role, more into database administration or more into some kind of hosting kind of thing, so then probably any one of this with this one will be added. So I recommend you to have at least any 2 or 3 skills of this before you plan later on. Because the main advantage of this is, let's say if I'm asking you to do CCNP also, let's say, or I don't want to say CCNP, let's say if you want to do something like cloud, or you want to do some kind of security course, but you need to have some foundations so that you can at least land on this job. Because many people do CCNP, and even there are many people who do advanced courses without a proper foundations, then that's where they get into a problem again. So they do CCNA and then they try the job, they didn't get the job, they do CCNP and then they didn't get a job, and then they say, okay, let me do virtualization, VMware, let me add that. But if you don't expertise whatever the number of courses you do doesn't really make sense, So make sure that you expertise those things. So that comes in the next. That's where we go into the advanced level. Now, once you decide what you want to do, whether you want to become a server-based engineer, or whether you want to get into more on network or more onto virtualization, once you choose, then you have advanced domains in that. Like if you are going for VMware, again, VMware leads the market in the virtualization, like data center kind of tech things, because everything is in the data center. It doesn't mean data center is the world, So you also have plenty of other things other than the data centers, other than many other things. So basically, you need to know where exactly you need to go. Now that will vary based on two things. One is based on many people, choose the fields based on the market demand. That's what I see many people. They say, okay, cybersecurity, there's a huge market. But also we need to understand, if you want to become a cybersecurity expert, you need to spend at least 1 to 2 years on understanding the deep knowledge of the applications, deep knowledge of the Linux or any hosting softwares. You need to have deep knowledge of little bit knowledge on some kind of basic running scripts, like coding kind of thing. And also you need to now have network knowledge as well, like understanding at least CCNA level concepts, understand server hosting, how it works, this kind of thing. So it's not like you just jump into the direct cybersecurity course, or you just jump into the cloud, or you just jump into the CCI course, and you just do it because there is a market. But at the same time, you also need to figure out, are you capable of covering that or not? Because every student, every person have the different learning options, means the interest as well as the learning capabilities. So that will vary. So you cannot jump into any course just because of the market. You have to make sure that you're also, whether your learning capability, does it match that or not? Because when you don't do these things, that's where the problem comes. Because you may not have a very good learning capability. You cannot sit for many hours and do the job, and you still want to go for some kind of course, then probably there's no point. So you need to do that based on the learning capability, also recommended to choose. Apart from that, obviously the interest, that will make a difference. Because when you are selecting a specific domain, expertise, I'm talking about expertise, these four are just the foundations, what I'm saying, but you need to get into expertise. Now, whatever the expertise you want to go, you need to have really a great interest in it, because that will lead to some having, you need to have some passion for that. That will make you satisfied again. Because if you don't have any interest, but you are just forcing yourself for the sake of market, or for the sake of getting good money or good salaries, so that will not help you in the future. Because if you don't have an interest, if you don't have a passion of learning, so basically that will again at one point, you will not enjoy what you're working. You still earn, it's not like that, but again, that will not drive you to learn more new things. Again, that will hold your growth as well. Because if you stop learning, that will automatically stop the growth as well. Now, the third thing what I suggest is based on your company requirements, because most of the companies train the individuals based on the requirements. Like many people come to me and ask, like, okay, I want to learn firewall technology, I want to add that to my profile. Now that's the question what they specifically ask, right? So now I say, okay, you want to learn the firewall. I know there are plenty of firewalls. You have a Checkpoint, you have a Cisco ASA, you have a Cisco Firepower. You also have a network security firewalls like Palo Alto, FortiGate, Juniper. Now the question is, which firewall you actually learn? I cannot say go and learn all the firewalls. Okay, definitely that will lead some good business for me, but that is something we don't do. But what I ask is, which firewall is running in your company? I will ask. That's the first question I'll ask. They say, okay, we are running FortiGate firewall. Then go ahead and learn that. Because once you learn that, then probably that will give an opportunity for you to start working on it. And once you start working on it in your company, then you gain experience, and that will be useful for to move to the next level, or when you are trying to make a shift in a different company, that will add an experience, that will count a complete experience. Now that's how you need to decide. So many companies do trainings specifically for different products, especially when they have a future projects, anything. So as far as that correlates with your network, as correlates with your growth, I strongly suggest you to learn as per that. Now, this is something what I strongly suggest, the most important thing, because if you learn some technology, let's say you're learning a Cisco Firepower, just for the sake of example, and in your company they are running FortiGate firewall, then what you will do by learning, you don't get an experience. So when you start working, when you start implementing, that's where you gain the experience. So probably that's something, you cannot say, okay, Cisco is a firepower, Cisco is a brand, that's something I will learn. CCI is a value certificate, I will go for it. When you don't have that requirement in your company, then probably once you reach 10-15 years, you can go for CCI. Obviously, that's where we do trainings for many CCIs. They are all experienced, who generally go for the training. But in terms of a fresher's point of view, these are the 3 points I suggest. Because once you choose the expertise, you cannot make a shift again. You cannot say that after 1 year, what I'll do is after 1 year, I will change from, I tried everything in the network security, everything on the firewalls, I didn't get any job. Now I want to change to data center. Why you want to change? So when you are changing to a different domain means you don't have expertise in that domain. That is the only reason. So people don't accept the mistakes. There is a famous quote, regarding this. I don't remember the exact, but when you start realizing your mistakes, that's where you keep growing. Okay. So when you start learning your, what we can say, when you start learning what are the things missing in your profile, where you are lagging, that's where you keep learning. Okay. So many people don't accept the mistakes. That's where they face the problem. They think that, I have 8 years of experience, I have 10 years of experience, I work for so and so XYZ company, the top company, I can get a job anywhere in the world. But once they start facing the interviews, they will start realize where they lack, and then they will start doing the preparation, then they will join the courses, then they will learn, and they will spend 6 to 8 months completely on that before they get into that. So basically that's where the problem comes. Okay, so make sure that you move this knowledge to the advanced level. So not just these things. So any 2 or 3 I suggest, any 2 minimum I recommend you to add, any 2 skill set, depending upon the domain what you're selecting. I don't want to highlight anything, but these are more kind of foundations. These things were the top level certifications 15 years before. 15 years before, if you are a CCNA certified, now what is the value of CCIE? That was the value when I did my CCNA. That's the difference. But now that has become the basic certification now. That has become the basic level of certifications. Specifically Microsoft, I have done 3 to 4 exams in Microsoft as well. I did some Linux, but I didn't do any certifications. I did some VMware, but then as I have expertise in this domain, so I moved on into that Cisco completely. But not the same case for all. So if you're moving on to the data center virtualization concepts, probably this is the domain. Okay, so for all these things, make sure that you expertise. In order to expertise, again, there are plenty of live training sessions you can join, refer some books. Many people don't read the books. That's the reason, they don't clear the interviews as well. So they just think that whatever the trainer is delivering, that is the only subject. Even my class, whatever the videos you learn from the CCNA, so that's enough to understand the concepts, enough to implement the networks, but there's something you need to keep on adding, because there are many things we cover in the next level. There are many things we cover in the more advanced level like that. So just the CCNA course is not the complete network. Okay, so you need to keep on adding. So use some virtual softwares. Probably in the CCNA, we generally use some softwares, EVNG. So try to understand these softwares. I do have some specific playlist for these softwares on my channel. So make sure that you advertise, expertise these things, not advertise. So make sure that you expertise, because again, the live trainings might not be affordable for everyone. Specifically, they are very expensive. And also the flexibility, time flexibility comes. Because if you want to get a live training, especially with an expert trainers, so there are two main challenges. Most of the live trainings which are offered by the trainers, they are not much experienced. And just to take my example, I do sessions on weekends normally, and it's very difficult to accommodate everyone to the same class. So, and most of the people who do live trainings, they might not be as experienced as what I am, or maybe other trainers. So that's where the alternative comes, where you generally have a training videos and everything. Those resources will be very much useful. Trust me, the self-paced videos or the training videos is the next level of learning. So I'm not just saying just because I do training videos as well. I do live sessions. We do all the things, but this is something, the next level of learning. Now, specifically, if you go 10-15 years before, when I started learning CCNP to CCI level, when I cleared my exam, probably almost it's 10 years now. Maybe next year I'll complete 10 years. So the trainings are very expensive, which I could not afford, the CCI level training specifically. And within India, you can simply count on your one finger how many training institutions offer the CCI level training. That's one more challenge. So getting an expert trainer specifically in the local city, or that's a big challenge again. So again, if you are going for US trainings, then that's very expensive, almost $5,000, specifically $3,000 to $5,000. That's something. What's the 10 days training cost? So that's not a small amount. That's where the intermediate I have come across the training videos. I used to buy or get some access to some of the videos, training materials, like still the INE, CBT. These are the leading vendors in the market. They have been offering the trainings for more than 15 years. They have been doing this. So basically, we also started from the 8-10 years. Also, even I started doing that. But at the end, this is one of the flexible and the best solution what generally you can go with, because you don't need to be live all the time because of the current working scenarios. So almost a network engineer, if he's working, his time zone will be different. Time zone, or you have to be available in your company network, those kind of things. And the training videos offer you the flexibility, but at the same time, you need to pick the right material. That is also important. Okay, so those kind of things. So this is something advanced is very important, and make sure that you keep learning. Learning process is very, very important to keep growing. So if you stop learning, you will stop growing as well. So the growing is not moving from level 1 to level 2 position or level 3 position within the same company. This has been the growth normally people used to see. But in today, the growth level is not about where you work. It's all about how much you earn. That is something you generally calculate. So it doesn't matter whether you're level 1 engineer, but what I calculate is, it's not about the levels, it's not about the money. What I generally calculate, it's all about the learning process. So as long as you're learning, means you're growing. Maybe you cannot make a huge amount in the first year, definitely will not. Maybe the second, third years also, maybe not. But you keep on growing after 3 years of experience. Once you add that skill set, and once you add a multiple domain expertise, multiple domains, like generally when you say any 3 to 5 years of experience guy, like in network, we can say he knows good about routing switching, and he is good at any 1 or 2 firewalls. He is good in some automation as per the current. He's also good at any one of the automation tools, those kind of things. So these are the skills they possess in those 3-5 years. So that's where you learn. Now, maybe at this point, I strongly suggest, specifically for the freshers, so don't go for the packages. Make sure that whatever the company you choose, there is a learning option. Like many people, like, let's say, let me take one more example. Let's say you got an opportunity from any one of my company, and that company, let's say it's a top MNC, top 10 MNCs. That's the first thing. And that's the one job where, let's say they are paying you, let me use Indian currency. Let's say they are paying you 30,000. Let's say that's something what they're offering. And there's another company might be offering you just 15K, but that's a small company, but there is a scope for learning. Now, again, one challenge you will face with the bigger companies, it is more restricted. You have a more restricted access. So you have a specific job roles defined. You have to enter the company, you have to check these logs, you have to monitor these devices, you have to do this basic troubleshooting. That's it. So you have a fixed role. You do every day the same thing. But whereas in some small companies, there is no defined role for you. You have to do almost everything normally, like from cabling to maintaining the servers, or maybe you also responsible for setting up the routers if there is no WAN engineer, or you might need to host an FTP server if you don't have a server administrator or he is out. So basically you have to try almost everything. So that's where you get the experience. So most of the big companies, it's limited. That's what I'm saying. The choose based on the learning process, not based on the package, not based on the size of the companies. So that's something you have to make a wise decision at the initial point of your career. That will change your future as well. Because trust me, the same thing happened with me as well. So obviously I have to choose any one similar kind of situation, not the same amount or not the same thing. But when you choose the learning option where you have a more learning options, where you have a options to explore, where you have a company where they do some trainings, they keep on network engineers to improve their skills. They provide you multiple trainings every year, or they at least tell you that, okay, learn this at least from your side, will pay whatever. So those kind of things will definitely help you. Because there are many companies, what they do is they will restrict your skill set to this point. They may increase your salary, but the learning process, it will completely stop. Now when any recession comes, coronavirus situation comes, or whatever the things happens, something bad happens, or someone company, they want to reduce the size of the company, so they want to fire you. When you're starting looking for a job, that's where you face the challenge for the interviews, because you have been getting a good package, but you're not learning, and that's where you change. So another example I can say, like, you keep on learning, because when you keep on learning, the thing is the first 2 years are the most difficult phase you come across. That's the initial phase. And once you are through with this phase, you learn some multiple technologies. You also have a 2+ years of experience. Now you can almost get more than 50% hike, 20 to 50%, I can say, when you are moving from one organization to another organization after this. So there will be a continuous hike, for every 1 or 2 years. How it is possible? Based on the learning. Now I have many examples, specifically to mention. Like I do normally, there are a few students who joined for my CCNP class. They have now, like, if you take 8 to 10 years before, CCNP is a very high level certification still, so when they started CCNP, they already have 2 to 3 years of experience. When they started learning the CCNP, they upgraded the skills. Now again, I'm not specifically saying CCNP, so don't go with that. Whatever in your domain, the next level. Now once you learn these things, now what happens is, now what you do is you're going to add this skill set in your profile. So which means once they learn the CCNP, when they make a shift to a different company, or when they move to a different country, so whatever the 2-3 years of experience, it will add with CCNP. So now they show up as if they are CCNP certified or CCNP level knowledge with 3 years of experience. Now that will make a big change, because they actually have a 2 to 3 years of experience on the level 1, maybe a level 1 or basic level. But once they add these skills, now this experience counts in CCNP with this one. Now that's where you can get that 20 to 50% of hike. Now again, after a couple of years, now again, when I now the specific guys, what I'm talking, that 12 or at least one CCI right now at this point. Even there are 3 CCIs, almost the same what I have right now. Now, once they do this, now again, they will add, once they get some 4 5 years of experience, they are into some senior positions, they will add CCI certificate, and then they will again add more than 50% hike. Even I have seen some people, they almost double the salary in the next job. So that is pure based on the skills, not based on just the experience. Of course, experience counts. Of course, the company where the work counts. But what more matters is the skill set. They did not just stay there, we got into a job, now we are just married, we just need to relax. We have struggled for all these years, in the college, in these things. We have did a lot of struggle to do this. But the actual struggle will start when you start working. So that's the actual learning process where you start. Okay. So these things matters. This is how you need to plan the things. So every day, I normally suggest every week you have to spend 8 to 10 hours on learning. Whatever you want to learn. I'm not saying specific, whatever the courses or whatever the things you need to learn, which will actually help you to in your job. At the same time, it also helps you in your next level, what your seniors engineers are doing. Let's say I'm working as a level 2 engineer now. My senior engineers, they do designing. My senior engineers, they maintain firewalls. I also have to learn that so that I can get into that position. Or at least if the company don't offer me that position, I can make a change and I can say that I have been designing these networks. Because once you have a knowledge, once you understand your company network, you can even go to the next company and say that, okay, this is something where I work. This is the network where I have been working. This is the network where I'm responsible. So that will count into that level. So these things are the things we need to plan. It's all about planning. So not just learning process is there. Obviously, it's there. But the actual learning starts when you start working. That's what the actual learning. So don't relax. Okay. So you have to struggle before the job. But once you get into a job, you need to understand the company network for 6 months. That will take time. Like, let's say you have started a new job and maybe 6 months it will take for you to understand that company network. And once you understand, then after 6 months, there's nothing much you do. The same routine job. So what you do other time, keep learning. That's it. Because you don't do the same thing. If you are doing something new, means definitely you're learning. Okay. Definitely you're learning. Something new means definitely something you're learning. If there is a VPN issue, you don't implement VPN. There is another engineer, but you started troubleshooting that. You started learning that. Okay, so learn as per the, not as per the market demand. Again, trust me, normally people ask many questions, specifically nowadays, many people ask specific questions like, okay, what is the market for this security? Again, they don't even know how many different domains are in the security. So when you talk about security, they only say cyber security. That is just one part of the security. That is just part of kind of data security. Again, there's a data security, there's a cloud security, there is a network security, system security, even there is an information security. Without actually knowing these differentiations, they just jump into one domain and they say that I want to become an expert in security. That's not only the domain, right? So what you see in the Cisco or the network side, that is what I'm data network security. That's where I'm specialized in. CCI security, I'm certified. So that's where I'm specialized. So I'm not saying I'm expert in all, but that's something, at least I know the difference between all these three. So make sure that you also know those things. So make sure that when you jump into the virtualization, you should know, not only you should know VMware, also you should know the other vendors offer the virtualization, like Microsoft is there, and what they offers, some knowledge about that, those things. Okay, so obviously you should know. So these things. Okay, so when you talk about Cisco CCNA, it's not just CCNA. Juniper is there, Juniper devices, less in the market, but still Juniper is there. You need to know some idea about the Juniper as well, because still there are some companies use Juniper routers or Juniper switches or maybe HP switches, like that. So use some tools. Expertising is important, because let me quickly move to the next. Finally, I'll add one more example specifically with respect to Indian market. Like many people do graduation. That's something, good thing. Of course, the prerequisite minimum graduation is something what companies prefer. But I'm not graduate. I'm just a 10+3 diploma. I just completed my diploma computers. Still, I'm training many people. So basically, but in the companies, that's something, if you're a fresher, that may consider. But that's not a mandatory thing if you have a strong technical skills. Now, many people do degree, BTech, these kind of things, and then they do MTech if they don't get into a job. And they say, okay, let me do MTech or MBA. Now, many people do MBA also. Even there are many people who do MS, masters in US, masters in Australia, and they take loans. There are plenty of time and money they invest. So I'm not saying these are not good. They are really good, but these all are only good if you possess them with a strong skills. Now, what I suggest is work on the skills, parallelly work on the degree, masters, whatever you want. But if you do all these things without the skills, that's no value. That will not help you. And then you get into some kind of manager job where you are doing something. Let's say you have done some MTech, and you may land into some kind of manager in a bank. Now, what is the link exactly? You have done MTech in computer science and you are getting into a different job. That doesn't make sense, right? So make sure that you work on the skills, and these skills has to be expertised with your graduation, with your studies. So specifically in India, this is one of the main issue. Many people, they don't plan the skill set along with the graduation. That's where the problem comes. That's where they don't get into jobs, and then they say, okay, let me do MBA. That's the next step they do. Okay, and then again they spend 2 years on it. At least the 2 years while doing MBA, they should have worked on the skills. Again, they don't do that. That's something, strange things. Even we suggest many students, we strongly suggest to work on this skill set after 10+2. Means if you're 17, 18 years old, you're almost eligible for all these things. Maybe you need to spend some less time for your academic studies. It's okay. So whether you are getting, you normally score 80% in your graduation. If you're even scoring 60%, the remaining 20% efforts what you're putting in getting 80%, better you spend on the skill set. Now, these things, what I suggest, if you have any of your younger people in your families, friends, probably this is something what I suggest for them. Plan these things. Now, getting into certifications. Now, certifications definitely add value to your knowledge. Okay, but less in India. Okay, certifications add more value to your knowledge, because that is kind of proof that you have a good exposure to these technologies. You are very good at implementing and troubleshooting the scenarios, and also you are very good, and also it will boost your confidence as well. Like Cisco certifications, Microsoft, Red Hat, VMware, there are every technology, there is a certification available. So you can plan those certifications as well. So the companies definitely see these things. They prefer the certified candidates while they are hiring the people, because these kind of certifications will benefit the company in two ways. One way is this certifications is like, it's like a proof that, okay, this guy is a talented guy, he knows the subject, so they will call for interview. So don't expect you get a job, okay? Because in India specifically, there are a lot of, I don't want to say this, but there are a lot of proxy exam centers. They do certifications through proxy services, and when they face interviews, then definitely the next question what they ask is from where you did the certification. That's the simple question you get. So it's really a kind of situation which I don't want you to face. Many of the people generally face these things, because the people, they will come to know definitely what are your skill set once you face interviews. Okay, but definitely that will help you to get into shortlisted. Or if you have two candidates with the same technical skills, they prefer the certified guy. That will add value. But again, specifically in India, when you say you are certified, means they will post you a strange questions like from where you did it, how you did it, these kind of things. So trust me, these are the same questions what I used to face for CCN exam when I passed long back in my career. This kind of questions, when some of your friends or relatives ask, when you say you are a certified, it's really a strange thing. So it's okay, when someone, friends, family faces this, that's not a big issue. But the same questions when you face in the interviews, that's a kind of really not to be in that situation. Okay, so make sure that you are certified, at the same time you are equally or more than technical skill. So for this, you need to make sure that you do a proper preparation, where every guide will have, whatever the study guide you choose for preparation, official guides. Like if you take CCNA official guides from Cisco, they have multiple choice questions, they have scenarios, they have some sample labs that will automatically make you to get prepared for your certifications. And also there are plenty of online test exam pattern questions, which will also help you. There are plenty of blogs where they post some kind of certification based questions, scenarios that will help you to prepare in both ways. One is for certification, because many people ask me, okay, can you share me interview questions? I say, just prepare the questions what is present in the Cisco Press books, every chapter. That is enough. If you count 10 to 15 chapters, 20 questions, almost 300 questions. And there are specific blocks I share normally where you can find some exam specific questions with scenarios explained. That will be enough for you to prepare for interviews as well. Because the level of questions what generally tested over there, that is more advanced level and more scenario based level and more interview kind of level, more kind of production scenario level, which will automatically help you to prepare for your interviews as well. Okay, so don't go and search for any specific questions like what are the interview questions for network engineers, what are the interview questions for system admin. You will find plenty, but at the end, when you prepare those kinds of questions for certification, it will also help you to prepare for your interviews. So trust me, if you have done your certification on your own by preparation, then definitely you will be in a position to also clear the interview, because the level of questions what tested in the examinations are far more higher than the level of questions what you expect in the interviews. So many people skip that part. That's the problem. They just think that, okay, I know how to configure the router, I know how to set up the FTP server on the Microsoft, that's it, finish. I know the MCSE, I know the server, I know the CCNA, I know virtualization, these kind of things. So that is the basic level of knowledge you need to have. That is a basic level, because the similar kind of people, there might be sitting hundreds in the interview. So you need to be the one out of that 100. Or if they're hiring 4 people, then definitely you need to be the out of that 4, right? So which means you need to be at the next level than comparison to the others, right? So this level of preparation is important. And this is the place where the people fail for interviews. And they again come to me that I didn't get into a CCNA job. I did CCNA, I did MCSE, I did this, I did CCNP enterprise now, I did this course, I didn't get into a job. Now my question is, of course, my question will be a little bit different than what generally everyone will do, because everyone, when you go to some training institution, they generally say, okay, do this, you will get into a job. But my question is, like, where you went wrong, why you could not clear? Because you don't have the strong knowledge in those domains. If you had a knowledge, then definitely you should have cleared. Now, again, jumping into the next course will not help you. First, you have to cover up the gaps in that module. And that's where the people face the problem. Okay, so because you're not expert in that, you're not good at that. Expert means, I'm not saying CCIE. Okay, so expert means within the CCNA level, whatever the topics covered, are you good at everything. That's where the things, So make sure that you do these things, prepare for certification exams, even though you don't have a money to write, even though that is not a requirement for you right now, even though, your company doesn't want you to get certified, but still prepare. If you are planning for the next interview, if you are planning for a job, prepare for it. Okay. Even if they come across a scenario where you are technically sound, but you don't have a certification, but there is another guy who is technically not as great as you are, but he's certified. So whom you think they will take? So definitely they prefer the technical guy, because certifications will not help them to do the job. The technical skills, what you possess, that will help you do the job. Okay. So that's the first thing. And the second thing, obviously, certified candidates, companies will prefer a lot of many reasons, because when they go for the projects, when they apply for any projects, or when they try to get any project, or when they try to prove their credentials, they will show how many certified people they are having. Not only further, even in specific in Cisco, depending upon number of CCIs working in your company, number of CCI certifieds, number of CCNP certifieds, number of CCNA certified, the level of discount you get from the Cisco products, that is also one more reason why company prefer certified candidates. Okay. So obviously company prefer the certified candidates. And if they really mean that, certification is something important, they will sponsor your certification. So you don't need to worry if you're technically sound. Okay. But again, I'm not saying every company will do that. Every company might do that. Okay. But whatever the level of certifications you need to prepare, I recommend you to invest some on certifications also. Okay. Apart from advanced knowledge. Okay. Not just basic knowledge. Of course, getting hands-on experience. Finally, the last thing, we'll just quickly see this. The next thing is, like experience. Now, experience always counts. Now, trust me, what I say generally to freshers is, even if you carry something like 10 lakh rupees, like 100,000 rupees, probably, and if you have those, and you go to any company, XYZ, any company, and you say that I'm ready to pay this amount, can you give me 2 years of experience? I'm not saying fake experiences, what you generally get in some of the fake companies, they do give you. I'm talking about the knowledge and the skills. No one will give you. So no one will give you this. Okay. So the initial phase is very important. So even if you carry a huge amount in your pocket and you go for any company, even if you come to me also, I cannot do that. I'll say spend 2 years with me, then I can guarantee that. Okay. So which means, okay, don't worry, I'm not in a position to pay for 2 years also. So don't come to me again, but I'm just taking an example. Okay. Because we are into trainings majorly. So that's the problem comes, so initial phase from a fresher, you're a fresher now, or you are trying to get into this domain, to 1 to 2 years, that is the most difficult phase you generally face. And that's where the people will break. They say, okay, I could not survive in this. I'll change my domain. I will go to some app developer. I'll go to this domain. I'll go to that domain, and I'll go to software. They keep changing. They keep hopping. So again, as I said, this phase you can only survive if you have a strong skills. That's the first thing. Skills are important, obviously. The second thing, you should not think about the package. So even if they're offering you very less package, of course, you are able to survive your basic expenses if that are mandatory for you to survive. Because many people come from out of stations, like from remote cities, they come to survive. So whatever the things needed to survive, if you are a bachelor, then basically those minimum things you need to accommodate. So probably the 1-2 years, whatever the location they offer you, because most of this space, most of this time I'm talking about bachelors. Okay. So because normally once we get 3-4 years of experience in a settled job in India, there is no, you don't get into marriage or other things. You don't have plans for that. So assuming that, you don't have any family responsibilities, basically whatever the location you go for, You get a job in Noida, Bangalore, or Delhi, whatever, wherever you want. Yeah, Hyderabad. Okay, so where I live. So basically, wherever you want, I recommend you to move around, because that's something you will not get even if you have enough money with you, but no one will give you. So I recommend, but make sure that whatever these 1-2 years you are spending in a right domain. So it's not like you have learned a networking and this job is into an application. Let's say you are doing some kind of technical job. Maybe, you are doing some kind of, you join the company and you realize that that's not actually a networking job. It's a technical support job where you have to attend the calls and answer the queries on the phone. Like, normally install this printer, install this driver. If you call any Dell support or any Intel support, or maybe you reply the mail, that will not add value to your skills, because they just follow the scripts. They just search the question and they just answer the question as per the scripts. So there's no real experience you get. Maybe the package is very good. As I said, you might be getting 30,000, 40,000, very good package, but that will not have any scope in the future. You have to do the same thing for the next 4 or 5 years, almost on the same package. And maybe you may become a manager after 5 years, but you still do the same job without actually getting any hands-on on the devices. So after 5 years, again, you will come to me. I know because I'm just sharing the experiences what I faced when I was running institution for the last 8 to 10 years. I have been getting these queries regularly. Again, after 5 years, the same guy comes to me and then say that this is where I land up. What I should do now. Now, instead of realizing after 5 years, I better to realize at the initial point itself. So make sure that you are doing a job which is more relevant, what you learn, or where you want to go exactly, or what exactly you want to become. Or even if it is having a scope, it's okay. Like my example, when I started my career, I started, of course, I started from basic hardware networking, teaching MS Office, those kind of stuff as well. But the pure network into job, I started as a server administrator, where my responsibility leads to server, managing the servers, running the FTP, those kind of things, services. And also I have some Linux knowledge as well. But I got an opportunity to get into Cisco, where one of my network engineer, he has to leave the company. Then I got an opportunity to move into the Cisco. That's again unexpected turn. That's the reason where I am right now. But again, that's a kind of a good thing, good option. So even though I'm not really good at Cisco at that time, even though I know the Cisco's basic configurations, but I'm not good at that. But they have given me 1 month time to prepare, because they don't want someone else to take up the role. They want some experienced person to take up the role, and responsible person. So you have to grab that. And from there, I don't need to look back to MCSE, or I don't need to look back to server side. Still, I use this Microsoft servers for some few things, few network setups, but that's where you go on. So you need to grab this kind of opportunities, or it is exactly challenging job. It's not like it wasn't challenging for me to completely change, but it was also encouraging me to the more advanced, because in Cisco, there is no end, there's no end, even after 3 CCI, still I have to learn data center, still I have to get into data center technologies, where I have to start. Still there is a wireless track, which I don't know. So the more you learn, the more you go, as I said. Even I'm not good at my other firewalls except Cisco. So those things. So hands-on experience is something very, very important. That's what I suggest. So that only comes when you start working, even if you have to work for at no cost. Again, obviously no one will do that. But even if you have to work for 3 months, 6 months, just for testing purpose, there are a few companies, they will hire for you to 3 to 6 months as a trainee kind of thing. If it is relevant to your domain, if you are getting enough practical exposure, that's something I recommend. So that's something really important, these things. So making those decisions are very important at the initial point of career. So don't look into the packages, don't look into the location. Don't say that I'm Hyderabadi, I'll do only job in Hyderabad. Means you will be like that only. I see many people around That's the reason I really feel bad for them. But still, that's the situation. So you cannot say that I'll not go to north side, I will not go to this side. Wherever you have to go, even you have to go to any foreign country, any African country also, I suggest you to go if you're getting an experience. Okay, so that something counts. But once you get enough experience, 1 year at least, then you start exploring, then you start growing. So that's where, and that too relevant to learning process. Make sure that you're also learning. And once you get 2 to 3 years of experience, minimum 2 years of experience, now you can start applying for the big companies. That's where you have to plan. So you cannot directly jump into Cisco company unless you are a topper in your college, unless Cisco directly hires from you the campus. Of course, we are not, even I'm not, right? So majority of the people are like that only, right? So they dream to work for a Cisco, for IBM, for Intel, plenty of companies, but it's not like you directly land into that job. So trust me, there are many people who are working in Cisco. Even when I go to CCI exams, it's very good. When you see someone recognizes you, okay, and they come. They started very long back. One of my students, now they are working for Cisco. So they didn't start directly into the Cisco. They didn't jump into Cisco directly. They have gone through with those steps. Okay, so those steps ultimately, you have to follow. At least 2 to 3 years of experience with some certifications in your hand, with some multiple domain expertise. That's where you start applying. And trust me, there are many options. If you follow this proper way, I have met almost, I know more than 2 to 3 guys who has come to me in the last 5-6 years. They have come with 2 to 3 company offer letters, and they asked me which company should I choose to go. So I want you to be in that situation. So no, you should be in a position to choose the company. So the company should not be in a position to choose you. Okay, so you should be like that, and that comes with the skills. That's come with a learning process. Keep learning. That's something very important. That's something what I suggest. Okay, so definitely this is something you want to. So you want to work for a better company. Definitely the package will be there. So don't learn for the sake of job, because many people normally, I can see there are a few questions I can just go through, but I'll come back to the questions in my next session, because already we are running out of time. Because I'll try to recollect the questions and we'll frame the questions probably in our next session. But what I can see is, will I get a job or not? These kind of questions, or generally they say, okay, so will I get a job? That is one kind of question. What package I'll get? See, what package you'll get depending upon your expertise. Okay, so I'm not hiring you. So the company who is hiring you will see whether you are capable or not. So the first thing in our mind should be to clear the job. So many people say the market is gray, because of the corona, because of the recession, because of the global market, the economy, everything has impacted the jobs. Trust me, the last 2 years, the IT company is not impacted because of this. Because many people are moving towards technology. Even the schools are using online classes. So they need an engineer, or a desktop engineer at least, to run those online sessions regularly, right? They need computers, they need internet, they need the technology. So the technology is actually growing. In fact, many companies hired new engineers during this pandemic time. Now, the only problem is we are not capable of that level. See, so this is something you must agree. If you are not clearing any interview, or if you are not getting into a proper job, means it's your fault. It's not the fault of the market. It's not the fault of the company. It's not, maybe, your skill set might, sometimes, it happens. Sometimes your skill set might be very high for the company. Like, let's say they want, like, I applied for one company. Normally when I applied for one job for the company, I was overqualified. Now this happens, but the problem is almost every people think he's overqualified, and that's the reason they didn't hire, just to satisfy ourselves. So don't be like that. If you accept your mistakes, that's how you will change, and that's how you will grow. Okay, so try to focus on our mistakes rather than focusing on the other mistakes. Okay, so that's where you actually keep growing. So that's where even I do. Okay, so that's something I suggest you to do. Okay, so the recordings, as I can see, the recording, anyway, I'm recording, I'll be uploading this on the YouTube live. Probably this will be live. And again, one more thing, the final thing, question and answers. I have plenty of question and answers, probably. And maybe after watching this, there will be plenty of questions. I could not go through with each and every chat here, but there are specific questions normally there. Maybe let me see if there are any questions. What I suggest is you to drop in the chat box, probably on the link once the video goes live on the YouTube as well. Whoever is watching, I recommend you to drop in the comment section where I can actually go with the question and answer sessions. We actually collected some online forms as well to collect some of the questions. That's something I'll quickly go through with them if possible, or else I'll try to add one more session, either live or in the form of recording, to post those questions. If I get enough time, if I can schedule up some live where I'll try to post. So there are a few screenshots. We actually collected some of the online forms where we got some questions. Let me quickly go through with that. And if you have any questions, I recommend you to drop in the chat box. I have my phone already here, so maybe I'll try to quickly go through with them as well. So the questions like I passed my B from mechanical, you can read the question, okay, age gap. So basically, if you have a gap, now this is the main problem what you face. People have a lot of gap between the education and the expertise. Now that's where the problem is. Okay, so we need to make sure that there is no specific gap. Even if there is a gap, the companies will definitely ask you what you have been doing all these 5-6 years. Okay, so which means definitely the companies will be looking into these things. If you are a mechanical background, whatever the background, doesn't really make any difference. Even if you are from a BCom background or any background, basically the only thing what the companies will see the graduation. Of course, they see in very less cases, they don't see the graduation. Like in my case, even I did to work for companies, but they never asked me why you did not do the graduation. And I never did that because I was more focused on the skills and the certifications rather than focusing on the graduation. Okay, but I suggest you to do it along with the graduation, but not the same case with everyone, not the same case in today's market as well. Okay, so if you are a BE in mechanical, basically there's no problem. Basically that doesn't make anything, but definitely you have to answer a question why you are changing your field from mechanical to networking or mechanical to whatever the role you are in. So prepare that question, a reasonable question, answer, prepare some good notes and try to by heart. And because even the HRs who takes the interviews, they will understand whether you are telling a lie or not. There are many tips. If you have heard about the coordination between your eyes, coordination, those kind of things they check. So I'm not good at that, but I'm just giving an example. Okay, so definitely if you are interested in IT field, you can do that. As I said, you have to frame the question. And about the gap, I cannot say anything because I cannot say that lie, because that's something I don't want to tell, but it's up to you. I'm just leaving it to you. But make sure that whatever the gap you have, you just explain that. So currently I'm working in a routing switching domain, FI. So make sure that you are expertising on those domains. So the first thing what I suggest you to do is make sure that you are expertising on the domain, because if you're working on an FI and if you're not expert in FI, then definitely that is the skill set you need to plan. Definitely you have to plan that. Okay. Routing switching, again, you have to know whether you are good at routing switching or not. Especially the current routing switching, you have enterprise Encore, you have enterprise routing, you have SD-WAN, you have SD access, automation things have come now. So are you updated with that or not? If you're not updated, make sure that you update those things. And again, security, if you are in security domain, make sure that whatever the domain you're working, expertise that. If you're planning for a job change, or even if you specifically, obviously you want to do a job change, most of the companies, they don't encourage you to the next level. Even if they move from L2 to L3, the hike will be not more than 10 to 15%. So many people prefer to change the company for 50 to 60% hike. That's what even I suggest. Okay, so definitely companies will not like this, but that's how it goes. Okay, so intermediate knowledge will not be enough. Make sure that you become expert in whatever the knowledge you know. Try to expertise it. If you're planning for a change, go for a change. Definitely you will see the difference in your company as well as the packages. Okay, more questions you can probably text me. I'm not getting in these things, but individually you can get in touch. What is the advanced course after CCNA? There are plenty of courses in advance, but first thing you need to make sure that are you good at CCNA first. That's the first thing. So along with CCNA, I recommend you to learn some MCSE or VMware, at least any 2 or 3. If you're going for any cybersecurity, cloud hosting, these kind of domains where Linux, even automation, Linux knowledge is also required. You don't need to be an expert in all the 4, but you have to be an expert in any 2 or any 1 as you progress. Okay, so make sure that you do that. Okay, just doing the course will not help you to clear the interviews. Okay, do I learn Cisco switches? Check the contents. Okay, you know the contents. What are the network companies in India recruiting freshers? No company. There are plenty of companies hire freshers. Cisco hires freshers. I got one training requirement in Cisco as well, where they are training freshers. But that's true, they should be toppers. Okay, so if you are a topper, definitely they will hire you from the campus itself. If you are not a topper, then you need to add the skill set what the companies are looking for. Then definitely they will hire you. So if you just have a master degree or degree with you and you don't have the skills, the company, and even if you are not a topper, then definitely they will not. Because the toppers, they will hire you expecting that they will deliver, they will learn and deliver, but they don't expect the same thing from everyone. Okay, so make sure that you do that. I know up to BGP level, what is my focus? Am I focused on hacking? So why you want to go for hacking? First thing you need to ask yourself. Again, the same questions comes, whether is it because you have an interest in that, or is it because there is a market demand for that? The first thing we should know, what is the term hacking? You should not say hacking, it's actually ethical hacking. Okay, hacking is nothing but seizing. You are trying to get some information from my computer that is kind of stealing my data. Ethical hacking means you're actually trying to prevent that. Means you are doing something for the benefit of the company. So try to understand these terms before you decide. Okay, so BGP level, if you're done BGP level, but you should know what is your background knowledge and those things. Okay, so will I get a job offer after CCNA? Again, the same question I can see here. See, you get a job only based on your skills, not based on the course what you do. Okay, so if you have a good skills, even at CCNA level, the companies will hire you. If you have done CCNA, you have done CCNP, you have done cloud computing, but you are not mastering any one skill, no company will hire you. Okay, so the foundations definitely plays a role. Even if you want to go for a cloud, or even if you want to go for CCNP, we say add some skills like CCNA, MCSE, and some Linux or VMware. VMware is more, I think I suggest virtualization, because this will decide which domain you expertise, will decide where you go exactly. Okay, even because normally people come to me and they say, I'm going to Dubai, I'm going to Saudi, or I'm going to some foreign countries, like doing some MS or whatever. The question say, okay, what should I do? Which advanced course should I do? I say, do the advanced as well as the foundations. Because at least if you don't get a job in advanced, at least you get a job in the foundation. At least if you go for a, like earlier, you used to go to Saudi, Dubai with a Azad visa, where you go and search for the job. Even in Dubai right now, it's there. What I suggest is, if you know MCSE system admin job, at least you don't need to come back. You can still survive 1 year doing some system admin job if you cannot get into a network admin job. But still, you don't need to come back with empty hands, right? That's the reason I suggest those kind of things. Cybersecurity courses, we have a tie-up with multiple companies, probably multiple other trainers offering multiple courses. How could you become network engineer? That's what the session is all about. How should I connect printer to via mobile? Try to search. The first thing you should ask whether your printer supports or not. That's the first thing you should have asked. Okay, so irrelevant question. online class schedules. We have online class schedules. What course? Basically, there are a few things like what called EC domination. And if you are going for masters in USA, have the interest in networking. And again, the question comes, why you want to do masters in USA? That's the first thing again I will ask, because I have interviewed one of the guy probably 5-6 years before. He has come to me and asked that, okay, I want to go to masters. Probably I asked how much is the investment you are doing on this, probably around 20-25 lakhs. How you are getting that investment? So through loans, those kind of things. I said, is there any need to go for it? Is it mandatory for you to go for it? I said, no, I want to do. That's it. So he exactly don't know why he's doing. So definitely you should have a clear visibility why you're doing for masters. And I'm not saying it's not good. I suggested him, okay, if you are going for a loan, that's something, normally we don't recommend. Why don't you spend 6 months to 1 year time on learning technologies and try to go for any advanced level certification with multiple things and spend some 2 to 3 lakhs on it and go for a kind of job here in India, maybe add some 6 months, 1 year experience, and then plan for masters if you're really desperate. So masters is something definitely, adds huge value to your profile. Definitely it will do that. I'm not saying that's not good. But when you go to masters, I suggest take 1 year gap and get into one job, 6 months to 1 year job, get some experience, and then you can plan masters as well. So what is the benefit of that? The benefit is when you go to masters, you have to do something for the survival, right? Definitely, like India, many people go, even I have few of my relatives, they go. So what they do to survive is they do some odd jobs. I don't want to mention them as well. You might know, to survive, not only to survive, even to repay the loan back. Now the question is, if you have learned the skills, you should have worked in a networking domain or something, and you should have got some experience along with the masters, and you don't need to do an odd job. I hope you understood what I was trying to say. So that's something what I suggest. If you're planning for masters, this is the hierarchy what I suggest you to follow. Take some 1 year gap, get some experience, get some skills, and then use the same experience to survive when you go back there while you're doing your masters. Because additionally, along with masters, you also add 2 years of US experience, those kind of things. So that has a huge value later on. Okay, that's something. To be an expert, CCNA is enough. Now again, you have to, I cannot say to be an expert today, CCNA is enough. But again, CCNA itself is enough if you know each and everything. If someone asks you what is dev, what is, any question from API, what is API means, you should be in a position to explain what is API. So that is again part of network automation. So if you're unable to answer, then that's a problem. If someone asks you, okay, I have this scenario, I want this ACL to write down, and this is my scenario. If you're able to write down, then you are good at that. So as long as you are able to clear the interviews, you can say you are good at that. And if you are not, then you are not. And if you are not at all getting an interviews, means please work on your resume preparation, work on where you need to apply for the job. That is the problem. Okay, so the problem is not on the job market. The problem is not with the companies. The problem is not with the recession. The problem is not with the pandemic. The problem is with you. Okay, so try to understand that, accordingly work on it. Communication skills plays a big role, very important. I suggest you to work on communication skills. Now, communication skills means not an English with a UK US accent. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the skills you're able to express. Like right now, whatever I want to say, I'm able to explain you, right? I'm able to, at least I'm making you to understand. Of course, I'm professional in that. But when you're facing the interview, the interviewer will ask you, what do you know about this? You know the scenario, you have implemented it, almost you have done in your previous company 10 times. But if you are unable to express or unable to explain the same, how the interviewer will come to know that you did 10 times? You cannot say simply, I did 10 times. Everyone tells, nowadays it's easy to tell a lie. It's as easy, everyone do that. So the problem is expressing yourself. You should be in a position to answer. That's something I recommend. Properly work on those things. Communication skills, very important. Those kind of things. Trust me, these things, let me just quickly come back. What are the qualifications to do to be a networking? Qualifications, keep learning, that's it. How many days can we complete both CCN and AWS? How many days you want to complete? That depends on you. Okay. So again, as I said, how many days you can complete, how many days you can become an expert. I think that should be the right question. How many days I can be an expert? So definitely for CCNA, it will take 2 months to be an expert, assuming that you are spending 2 to 4 hours per day, 20 hours per week. That's something minimum you have to do. And not only that, that is just to understand the subject. And for expertising, you will be spending around 20 days. As I said, expertising, you have to prepare the certification exam questions, practice questions, read some multiple choice questions on the Cisco Press books. That is expertising. So there is a difference between learning and expertising. So try to understand that, because many people don't know this difference. So just like if you now, just like you have a knife, so that knife, if you want to use it for a purpose, that should be sharp. You have to sharp it, right? So that sharpening is nothing but expertising. So having a knife, nothing but it's learning. So if you don't sharp your knife, now basically that's not going to help you. Okay. So some kind of different example, but I can explain that Hindi more better, but okay. So that's the thing. So make sure that you don't forget to sharpen your skills. So knowing the skills, having the skills, sharpening the skills is something important. So many people will try to learn the skills, but they don't try to sharpen the skills. That's where the problem comes. Okay, so in order to be the only one person to be selected from out of 100, you should sharp your skills. Okay. Out of CCNA, which job profile, whichever suits you, whatever the profile you want, you can apply. It's up to you. Basically, whatever skills you want, you can go for it. Query, the query is there, but I don't have the question here. How much duration? Again, as I said. So we don't do any placement. See, basically, no training organization will place you. Trust me, even though they commit, even though they promise, they only show the placements who are already placed. See, if I start collecting the people who getting placed, if I keep on asking every student where you're working and where you get placed, like generally I get messages on my LinkedIn, on my YouTube channel as well. Even there are many people, they can also post here just for the confirmation that what I'm saying is right. So many people text me that they got selected just because of the YouTube videos by referring that, just by learning technologies. And whenever they have any query, they search for that technology with my name on the YouTube and they just implement it. So now the question is, we didn't place anyone. We are just making you to be ready for the job. Okay. So definitely that's something don't expect. No one will provide you a job. No one will place you. You have to make yourself to get placed. So what I can do is I can just guide you. Okay. So I can just guide you. That's what I'm doing for instance, 1.5 hours. What I'm trying to do, I'm just trying to guide you, tell you the facts. Okay. Which normally people don't share, especially the training companies, they don't share these things. Okay. Because it definitely impact the business, obviously. Okay. So basically the same thing, this answer I already explained. Many of the questions I already answered. What I have to do in a real-time practice, I said, even if you carry 10 lakhs, 100,000 rupees in your pocket and walk into any company, they will not give you the experience. That's something you have to earn. That's something you have to earn by getting into a job. That's the only way you can do. So try to become an expert and go for it. Which protocols? Everything, which protocols means, how should I say? That will vary. Okay, fine. So I think we are summing up these things, almost the same thing. Cloud computing, that's what the problem. See, many people jump into the cloud computing. I'm not denying that the cloud is a market, cybersecurity is a market, but the fact is many people ignore the fact that the cloud, where it is not on the sky. It is somewhere hosted on the servers. It is somewhere the network is present. It is somewhere virtualized. So without the having of a knowledge of servers, without knowledge of networks, without knowledge of virtualization, I don't know how people survive in the cloud market. So many cloud professional, if you go and ask any professional, I'm also in talks with few of the cloud expertise. Probably I have one of my cousin works in Canada, and I have few of my students as well works in cloud specifically who learned from me. So I'm trying to pull some of the people for this specific demo. I just want them to go through with their career graph. Okay, so just by watching the videos on YouTube, just someone says, even I've been watching, someone says I earned this much of amount, so I changed my career to cloud and I'm making almost 20 times money. So these are all kind of marketing tips. Definitely they get paid for that. So the skill set is something you need to add. I'm not denying that the cloud is not, the market is there. Even the market is there for Cisco as well. It's a leading manufacturer of the network company. Even VMware, the leading vendor for the virtualization. Microsoft, the leading operating systems. Red Hat, the leading operating system in servers you use. So everyone is the leader in the market in their own domains. Now the question is where I want to go. That depends. Okay. So again, if you're going for a cloud, AWS is a mark, Amazon is a leader again, like that. So at the back end, without network, these things will not work. Okay, so these things, specific questions. Let me quickly see the chat, and if there are any questions from here, I'll quickly grab some of the questions from here. Once you got CCNP, you don't need CCNP to renew. Basically, certification questions, you don't need to renew CCN certification because CCNP renews your CCNA automatically if you're done within the 3 years. Even if your CCNP expires, no problem. You can directly go to CCNP exams. You can just check, there is one playlist in my YouTube channel for certifications and updates. Specific any classes, if you're looking for, just text on the WhatsApp numbers or the office numbers, probably that will help. Training sessions will be available on the website, or you can just ask for it. Okay. So I don't see any specific questions, but these are specific questions which I have collected from our people from our side. A few of the questions, most of them I already covered during the session. Okay. So still, if you have any questions, I recommend you to do it. There's a question: technologies are flooded into network domain. Any suggestions to how to cope with technologies like SD-WAN, Cisco Meraki, MPLS, Riverbed? Now, technologies, there are plenty. As I said, if you are expertising into routing switching domain, then there is an option called SD-WAN, SD access from Cisco, which is again changing completely into automation part. So we need to know that automation skills. Again, if you are going for specific service provider networks, then again, MPLS technology you have to learn. So if you are going for any other products, depending upon the domain you work, you have to select. So don't simply go for anything by thinking someone did this. Even I from my experience, I can say, 4 or 5 years before, I used to meet some of my friends very long back. They want to change the domain and do CCIE. I said, why you want to do? Just by seeing what I'm doing, they just want to do it. I said, to become a CCIE, there is a 10 to 12 year of struggle. Of course, we started focusing on that. So that's something you cannot do within 1 year, right? So don't try to change that. Always make sure that whatever the things you already have, try to build on top of it. That's something I recommend. And if you have nothing, then definitely you have to plan according to that. Okay. Besides CCIEsp, what kind of certification good for service providers? Service provider, specifically in core, service provider, Juniper products are most commonly used. So if you're going for any Juniper trainings, specifically in the core routers, service providers, they use Juniper routers. That's where the market is. That's something you need to know. Even though I say CCIE service provider is really good, but in terms of implementations, you have to know Juniper products more than Cisco products inside the core. That's something, Now these things I learn from my students sometimes. Sometimes when I go to training for CCIE service provider, then you have a person working in a service provider for more than 10 years. Then I start learning from them, what kind of network they are implementing, which routers they are using, this kind of things. So that will add value to my knowledge as well. The same question, Tang, my question is CCI worth in 2021. So definitely CCI is worth if you have proper experience. If it's not worth specifically if you don't have an experience. So if you're going for CCI, all the CCI trainings, what I do, they are more than 8 to 10 years of experienced people, and many are in a manager positions. They join from different domains. In fact, there are many people who are more than my age, almost 5 to 10 years more than my age. So definitely CCI is worth if you have at least 5 years of experience, at least minimum. Okay, so CCI RNS is no more. CCI Enterprise is the replacement for that. Okay, so simulator for Nexus switching. Nexus switches, you can simulate few things in the Cisco Eve. Those things, recording will be available online. So basically what I suggest you to do is you can text me on my YouTube channel, probably in a personal chat or email, where I can reply back to my questions, or even you have a WhatsApp number, probably where you can drop in some kind of audio or text. You can find that on the website. Normally website, you can just check on the website where you'll probably find the details. Either you can drop in an email if you have any specific questions. Now, this is just to sum up what I want to share. Basically, I hope this will be clear. And the people who are already experienced, I recommend you to plan your career with some examples what I have used. And the people who are starting up, make sure that you try to expertise. Don't just try to learn. Don't just try to learn anything just for the sake of job. So I suggest, normally, there are few quotes normally people say, basically, like, you have to learn. Definitely you have to learn to make sure that you advance your technologies, not for the sake of jobs will come automatically. So see, companies will hire you automatically once you start working on your technical aspects, along with understanding where you need to post your profile, how you need to build your resume, preparing some proper communication skills. Those things also matters, because to get shortlisted, you need to have those skills as well. Okay, fine. So that's it for this session. Hope if you have any questions, you can drop in the comment section. Probably I'll try to respond there in case, or else I'll try to sum up a few things in my next session. Okay. So I'll be doing some sessions regularly, every week to 10 days. I might come up. So my next session will be on network security, which is something I'm planning to do it in the next week or next 10 to 15 days. So I'll be hosting that on my channel. Probably I'll try to go. Normally I do recording and I just upload them. But I thought this is the way I can still interact with our people, at the same time do some live sessions. Because many people complain, it's hard for me to pick live, especially for my classes, or maybe for my for my calls. So that's something I cannot do anything, because I'm a little bit stuck with multiple things. But definitely I'll try to take out some time to go live on our YouTube channel, probably from where we can go live and we can have some sessions on this. Okay. So fine, that's it for today. Thank you. You can see I've given an example, 32 versus 15K. So there are many things, even you can relate me as well. Fine. That's it for this session. See you in our next session. Okay. Thank you.